Alright, I am back with another Destiny video. I am pretty sick, so I didn't do a video yesterday. I expended all my video energy on filming the final Fireteam Chat episode, which was a lot of fun. A really great reunion episode, but I wanted to chime in briefly today with something that came up in the past day or so regarding data mining and something I saw kind of floating around there. And it got me thinking about kind of my own thoughts on data mining, especially in Destiny, and my own philosophies on it, both kind of in the past and moving forward. What happened is Destiny Tracker, one of the many, Destiny news Twitter accounts, sites, posted a data mined series of quest steps for something that is coming in the future. Without going into details, it's not. It seems to be like kind of a story quest. It doesn't necessarily seem to be like some elaborate secret quest like Presage or something. But the point is like it was a little, just the fact that it existed and some of the descriptions. And I mean, I stopped myself before I read more than like the first couple lines of it, but it still kind of caught a lot of people off guard. And even though they posted like disclaimers, they eventually deleted it, and then they got dunked on by a bunch of other news accounts being like, we would never do that, like blah blah blah. And like, I'm not here to judge, them for doing that. I have posted plenty of things that people would consider spoilers on Twitter, and I get yelled at all the time about that, whether it's in game or out of game or whatever. But I have found myself being less and less kind of lenient about data mine stuff than I have been in the past. And my philosophy at this point is pretty much to either avoid at all costs, or if I cannot avoid it, to try and avoid bringing it up. I think it's also important to draw a distinction between data mines and leaks. Leaks are usually just like someone on 4chan being like, hey, I heard this, this, and this, and this. And like 80% of the time, they're nothing. And then 20% of the time, they come true. That is a little different to focus on, if you ask me, because there's no guarantee necessarily that something's going to pan out or not, so you can kind of speculate on whether something is true or not. If there are leaks where like a number of them have come true and there's a long list of things, I might try to avoid that if it does seem to be kind of more confirmed. But data mining is like pulling stuff out of the game that is like embedded inside of it, for lack of a better technical explanation, in terms of upcoming content. And I used to be kind of more lenient about data mines, mostly because of what they used to be and like the kind of stuff they would reveal previously. And I think part of this has to do with the way Destiny has changed as time goes on, where a couple years ago, a data mine would be something like a secret mission exists, or like a puzzle quest is going to exist, and like here's some weird looking symbol we don't understand the meaning of. Like if you were, I'm talking like back in like the Black Armory days or Opulence or things like that. Or, at the very worst, you might get like seeing a gun or something that wasn't supposed to come out, or the description of a gun, things like that. This stuff is like kind of whatever. Like if someone immediately has data mined, like, what the new perks do on guns for a certain season, like I think this is kind of a gray area where it's like, okay, is a new perk dropping like necessarily a spoiler, things like that. I think you can get into kind of murky territory there where it's like what you consider spoilers or not. But what has happened now is there has been more and more story content poured into each season. And so the data mines are pulling out, it's not just like this secret thing is going to happen, like here's the week it might happen, here's an Eververse ornament coming out for a gun, like things like that reveal future content. It's like, here are the full texts of 8 lore books that are unfolding across the season 1 week at a time. Here's all the voice work coming from this season that describes every character interaction in detail. And here's 2 or 3 cutscenes that are kind of the most pivotal moments of the story this season. It's kind of a new level where the stuff that is being spoiled now is at a level beyond what it was before. And I think you can debate whether or not like the appearance of a certain gun or the timing of a certain quest is a spoiler, but I do not think anyone would really push back against the idea that data mining actual story information is a spoiler. I'm not saying Bungie should like be prosecuting these guys and like whatever, and I'm not here to like, dunk on Ginzer and people that do data mining. I think it is a legitimate path of inquiry. I am just saying that I personally am not going to be seeking these things out, and I am going to try as best as I can to not reveal anything happening in the future. Because like the problem for me is like I get this stuff spoiled for me usually regardless. Because like I just in my mentions, people are just like I talked about this today. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to talk about this data mine, and then the people with the comment thread are like, DM me the data mine, and then instead of DMing them, people just post the spoiler. So it's very hard for me to actually avoid this stuff, but I am trying to make a conscious effort to avoid this story-based stuff in particular and not comment on it and just kind of wait for things to unfold in the game itself. I think there are situations where it's like, okay, so in the first 30 seconds of this season, you can pretty much kind of see Kyria as showing up as a taken mines, at the very end of the last mission there. And like, well, there may be data mine stuff to confirm Kyria later. Like, I think it is talking about Kyria being a part of the season is legitimate because there was something in the game hinting at that. Or if this is all theoretical because I'm not seeking this stuff out. Like, if something's going on with Osiris, like that's shady, like I'm not going to use data mined information to confirm whether or not he's being shady, but like there is enough stuff in the game, I think, to raise eyebrows about Osiris to talk about for like the last video I did, things like that. And just my general rule, like everyone doesn't need to adopt this rule, and yet, I mean, it does seem to be a pretty clear line. Like I know some news accounts, some YouTubers will just like use pretty much any data mine to dive into, and I know there is a crowd that is fine with this and are just they're gonna devour any data mine that they come across like pretty much the instant it launches. And I think that's fine. I think the problem is just you have to be labeling this stuff very carefully. Like you have to make it very clear it is data mine information, and like you can't just like casually weave it into your other coverage. And you have to make people look for it, so you don't just like flat out share something. And like again, I get yelled at all the time, but it's usually like, Paul, it's 30 minutes after reset and you're posting the screenshot of something. Like that's its own debate, and I guess you can get mad at me for that, but at least that is stuff that is like in the game already and not like here's something that was pulled out of the backend files. And like we know Bungie doesn't like this. There's a tweet that went up in the wake of this exact situation from Mike Profeta, who is a senior designer at Bungie, and he says, "Hey y'all, leaks suck. Really takes the wind out of our sails when folks actively spoil exciting moments we just spent months working on to surprise you all with. We love that y'all are excited truly, but spoiling things with leaks just flat out sucks for everyone. Don't do it." And I think this is referencing the quest that's coming up based on the story content, and I get it, and I empathize with them. And so like knowing that this is kind of Bungie's philosophy, this is also something else that has affected me in a way where like I want to avoid this as best I can now. And like I'm not saying I've done this perfectly in the past, even with story content, but I'm kind of like this just keeps getting like worse and worse because there's more and more story content per season. So now I think it's time to just kind of draw a hard line between like either you are like a data mine guy or girl and like you are covering that content like specifically, which is fine. I just think you have to label it and then not like really go out of your way to share it and like don't put it in your thumbnail, like things like that. Or you're not going to publish any data mine information before like it comes out. Like things like, oh, like I think this quest might launch this week. Like I'm okay knowing things like that just for like to prepare coverage and stuff like that. But the specifics of this, like it used to be like the lore that would leak is like, oh, 801 single lore book from Black Armory. And now it's like, again, like 10 lore books and all this dialogue and cutscenes and all this stuff. So it really does kind of hurt the game where like something like the Saint cutscene happens and that's like a great moment. And everyone's like, oh, this was data mined like 2 months ago. And it's like, what? Okay, but like you weren't supposed to watch it. And like, it's still supposed to be an impactful story moment. And like, I think enough people don't dig into the data mines where like a lot of these moments still really land. It's just annoying when people say like it doesn't land because they saw it from a data mine a long time ago, and like whatever. I think Destiny is unique in this regard because like I cover data mine content all the time from like Fortnite, but that's just like so the data miners there are uncovering like skins or like teases of the themes of next season or things like that. And I think that's a different category of like I can't consider like a preview of a licensed IP skin like ruining something for the Fortnite community. Like it's a complicated issue, but there are certain lines I kind of draw in my own head. And the one I've drawn here now is like very much for story stuff. I'm going to both avoid data mines as much as I can and also not cover them until things are actually happening in game. So that's where I'm at. I'm not shaming anybody. I get accused of spoiling things all the time, so I get it. But I just wanted to kind of talk about this because it was a hot topic today. So that's all the talking I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to go lie down. And hopefully this goes away soon, and we will have some story stuff to talk about in the open this week. I do not actually know when this leak thing is supposed to be happening. Whether that's this week or next week, I didn't actually look into that much. So I guess we'll see whether or not it is. But there's going to be plenty more to talk about each week with the story, which is one of the benefits of the season. So, all right. Thanks you guys for watching. Oh, I announced the winners of my fashion contest, which I sent out the email for God Rolls. So make sure you subscribe to that. If not, I published the link to my Twitter too, so you can see it there. But thanks everyone who entered you found that through YouTube, because I know it doesn't always overlap, but that was a lot of fun. And I did like a top 30 list because there were so many entries and it was a really great time. But yep, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.